Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us on an early Friday morning. Today, we are going to be demonstrating the PeopleAdmin's employee records, which we will be calling internally the onboarding module. So my name is Christine Ball. I am the manager of the Onboarding Center here at Auburn University, and I'm delighted to facilitate this session. I'm also joined by Ms. Jenna Richards, who's representing our employment team here at Auburn. I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Jenna as she discusses with you some of the transitions related to this implementation of this module, as well as differences between what you were doing in the PeopleAdmin ATS system and what we will be doing once the onboarding module comes into play. I hope that today on this call that we are joined by HRLs, HR generalists, specialists, supervisors and department admins. We will talk in depth about your access and your actionable tasks within the system. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and turn it away to Jenna. And again, she will talk to you about some changes in your current processes that will be impacted by the release of this module. So without further ado, Jenna, go ahead.
Okay, Christine, can you hear me and see my screen?
Looking good.
Okay, thanks. As Christine said, I'm Jenna Richards, and I'm a member of the Employment Services team here at Auburn. So I'll be starting off talking about the tail end of the hiring proposal process, which some of you should be familiar with in our new system. So right now, you guys are attaching new hire documents to the hiring proposal as the last step of the hiring proposal process. So on June 1st, when we go live with the employee records module, you won't do that anymore. So instead of attaching new hire documents such as your W-4, your A-4, and your PDF into the PeopleAdmin hiring proposal, those documents will be submitted through the employee records module instead. So here's sort of an updated workflow of how that's going to work. So you've got your offer letter signed in PeopleAdmin, then the hiring proposal will be finalized, and then the employee will start to get prompts by the employee records module to begin attaching those new hire documents. You may have some questions about how Jumpstart is going to factor into all this. So for your non-faculty new hires in PA7, these will no longer be processed through Jumpstart. If you've got faculty hires, those will continue to be processed through Jumpstart, at least until the faculty site is combined with the non-faculty site. So we'll be all under one PeopleAdmin site later on in the summer. So if you happen to have any non-faculty new hires from the old PeopleAdmin 5.8 system, do continue to still process those through Jumpstart. So I'll pause right there. Does anyone have any questions about those changes so far? All right, well, I'm going to move on here to TES for just a moment because there are a few changes there as well. So you'll notice that we have removed the workflow state called initiate request for hiring documents. So those will not be attached to the PeopleAdmin hiring proposal for TES either. That will happen in the employee records module. Also, the email generated to applicants with the hiring checklist and post-employment instructions won't be triggered by the PeopleAdmin hiring proposal anymore. That information will come through the employee records module. Just a couple process changes for TES new hires. The hiring checklist no longer exists because the new employee records module will take the place of that. And new hires will go through that system to complete everything. I-9 processing, TES will complete all Section 2 for I-9s. And all TES hires will be required to process through the TES office. They're currently working to create a scheduling system that will keep wait time to a minimum for those new hires and to also promote social distancing practices. So that's what we've got as far as changes to the ATS. So I'll send it back to Christine to talk about the employee records module some more.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jen. I appreciate your assistance this morning. Okay. So where we're going to start today is getting you into the system. So again, I'm hoping that everyone that's on this call is familiar with PeopleAdmin thus far, that you've utilized the system, whether it's to finalize hiring proposals, to process new employees in the current capacity. What we will do, I'll go ahead and start sharing my screen. I'm trying to stall while it's loading. But the way that you would enter into this platform would be the same way that hopefully you currently are, which is going to be through your AU access in single sign-on options. So under AU Access, you'll click the Employees tab along the left side of the screen. Then under your Employees page, you will have Employee Tools. Under Employee Tools, you will see a People Admin icon. You will click that icon and log into the system, and it should bring you to the Applicant Tracking System home page. Now, I do want to preface this with saying that I lost my train of thought very quickly. Oh, I know exactly what I was getting ready to say. I have already received emails from several individuals that are either in the audience today or have received communications related to this module previously. And basically what they had been communicating was that they were unable to get into the system at this time. So I wanted to just inform everyone that this module in particular is not going to be accessible until June 1st. So I wanted to make sure I threw that out there just in case after today's session you decided to go into the system, play around with it, and you realize that you could not get in, or you don't see the same thing that I'm demonstrating today, that it is not an error on your part, that in fact that this module is just not accessible to you at this time. The other thing that I wanted to mention to you guys is I dream about this in my sleep, so I am very well versed in the People Admin module. So if I go through this demonstration entirely too fast, please don't hesitate to chime in, ask me to slow down at any point, or if I'm confusing you in any way, please communicate that as well. I do want to make sure that I emphasize that the demonstration today will coincide with that user guide that you were emailed along with the invitation to today's session. So again, if you'd like to follow along with that user guide, feel free to do so. Or again, if there are just certain things that you don't feel comfortable as we demonstrate today's session, please feel free to go back and reference that user guide. I am also, again, recording this session. I can already tell you that this session will not be the one that will be published, but we will make one accessible to you guys for you to go back and listen to, again, as you begin to work within this system. So again, just to kind of jump back where I started, you will enter into this system under the applicant tracking system. Once you do so, you will see this ellipsis at the top left corner of your screen. You'll click that ellipsis and it will open up this menu bar, which under there you'll see the employee records tab. Go ahead and select that employee records tab and it will open up the employee records module for you. And again, you will hear us say employee records module, the onboarding module. You will hear that being utilized synonymous. It is synonymous. You will hear us use it interchangeably. So again, please don't be confused by any word choices that I use. So once you open up the platform, I do want to familiarize you with the main page. What you will see when you first open it up, we'll start with the menu at the very top. You will see several icons along the top right screen. You will see your My Task. Under your My Task, this is where you will be able to quickly access anything that you have been assigned. I will go ahead and mention that if you are an HRL or HR specialist or generalist on the call, there are not many actionable tasks that you have within this system. Your access in here is going to be more so of monitoring employees' completions of designated tasks. As Jenna mentioned earlier, we are doing away with those checklists. Those checklists have been embedded into this system. And so now it would be just your goal to monitor and manage your employees that you are onboarding to ensure completion of those tasks. But you as an HRL won't have many actionable tasks within this platform, so to speak. And again, we'll talk about that in greater depth as we continue through the module. I will demonstrate your actionable tasks if there are any. So again, under your My Tasks, you will see those tasks that need your attention, things that you are being tasked to complete. You will also see things that you have completed that is also a task here for you as well. So you can go into the system and see where you've completed respective tasks for employees, all right? The next icon that you will see is something called blank docs. Blank documents, we're not currently using this at this time, but again, one thing that you're going to hear me say all throughout this training today is we really want you guys to begin owning this system and incorporating your current processes into this framework. So as I'm demonstrating this module today, I really want you guys to be thinking about some ways that, you know, you can start utilizing this for your onboarding processes. So with blank documents are anything that, any documentation that you may need from an employee that does not live inside of a new hire checklist, or if it's, again, something that is not associated with a typical onboarding process. I will give you an example. Let's say you are using an emergency contact sheet or an emergency contact form. Now, we use AU Access to update emergency contact information, but let's just say hypothetically we did not have that platform and you needed to retrieve that information. Now, emergency contact information is something that we may want to have updated and on file all throughout the year, and it's something that can change at any time. So with that being said, it may not be something that is necessarily associated with the initial onboarding experience of that new employee, but it is something that we may want them to continuously update us with. So we will create a blank document, and that document is something that employee can access at any time, update it, and submit it to us. So again, be thinking about, are there current documentations that you are retrieving from your employees, new hires in particular, that you may need that's not necessarily associated with that initial onboarding checklist. And again, I'll give you some greater examples of this situation and put it in some better context after we begin to view what those checklists are within this module. The next thing that you will see is a files icon. The files icon at the top right are going to be associated with your personal files. Now, I do want to mention that you as an employee are likely to not have any documentation within these file folders because you are not being onboarded in this system. If you were being onboarded in this system, let's say you are newly hired HRL, it is likely that if you come through this system, that any documents that you submit into this platform will be housed and stored into these folders. But because you all are already full-time employees, it is unlikely that you're going to have any documents that live here. What HR is doing is we are extracting documents from this system and uploading it into our current filing system and record keeping system. And what we're not doing is taking documents that currently exist in that platform and uploading them into our employee records module. So we are not doing that. What we are doing is pulling it from here and incorporating it with our current filing system. But any employees that are onboarded into this platform are able to access their documents that have been submitted here at any time. Same thing for you. If you needed to upload or retrieve a document that a new hire has uploaded into this system, you will always be able to go back into their files and access that document. Again, we'll talk about that in greater depth in just a few moments. But again, the files icon at the top right corner of your screen is associated with your personal files, okay? The next icon that you will see is a filing cabinet. The filing cabinet that you see here is going to be any documents that you are currently keeping in a hard copy form. This system allows you to scan and upload those files into this platform, so that way it is easily accessible for you. Again, HR is not dictating or mandating that you utilize this functionality of the system, but it is a function that you can take advantage of that may, in essence, make you much more efficient in your current processes. So again, you feel free as you begin to become more comfortable with this platform, utilize this to your advantage. But again, you may or may not see this particular feature as necessary for your current processes. The next icon that you will see is the reports feature. Under the reports feature, this is where you're going to be able to run various reports related to the new hire employees that you are onboarding. I'm going to give it just a second to load. It seems to be a slight delay. It's still thinking about it. Oh my. All right, let's try that again. Again, as I mentioned, if we run into some technical difficulties throughout this demonstration, it never fails. Like I said, we have been recording each of the sessions. We've had 5 of them thus far. If necessary, I can always just go back, either play one of those for you or just make sure that I make it accessible for you. But it is my hope that it'll jump right back into play. All right, so We'll hit the reports. Here we go. All right, we're back in action now. Under the reports icon, again, you will have a list of various reports that you will be able to run. I will go through each of these in greater depth as we get to the latter part of the session today. The other part, I'm going to go back to that main page. Again, to quickly access our main page, you'll click that My Task icon, and it will bring us back to our home page. I do want to also familiarize you with your user list over in the left side. I want to say that this is the only place that will differ amongst roles and employee types. If you are HRL, an HR generalist or HR specialist, you will have access to all employees that are being onboarded within your division. So every departmental onboarding, all departmental new hires will be listed here for you to see. If you are a department admin or a supervisor, your scope of employees will be drastically different. It will likely be much less. Supervisors are only going to have access to employees that are considered to be their direct reports. Department admins will have another tier on top of that where they will have employees that they have been associated and tied to in terms of their actionable tasks related to the onboarding experience. If those were a lot of words and it was very confusing, basically what we're doing is we are now asking you on that finalized hiring proposal to indicate an individual that will be responsible for managing the onboarding process. So what you will do as an HRL or initiator, whomever is submitting that that finalized hiring proposal, and I apologize if my word choices are incorrect in how I'm explaining this. I don't deal much with the ATS side, but basically we will be asking you to designate an individual in addition to the supervisor of someone that will be the responsible party who will monitor this employee. Now, you as an HRL is going to have all access view, so you will always be able to monitor these employees. But let's say you don't necessarily have a hands-on involvement in certain departments. Then you will be able to designate a respective person. That person will then be attached to that respective employee and will be able to access everything that I'm going to demonstrate for you today. So hopefully that's clear. I am going to pause for just a moment to allow you guys to ask any questions. If you have any concerns, please feel free. Like I said, you can chime in. We also have someone that's moderating the chat that can also ask questions as well. So any questions or concerns before we continue? Perfect. All right, so hopefully everyone's feeling good about the module at this time. One of the quick features that I'd like to show you related to that user list is along the left side of your screen where you see this user list. Let's say you, again, are HRL and you've got hundreds of employees that you will be monitoring. One of the ways, if you are looking for a particular employee, is to utilize the search feature at the top. What we'll do is we'll just type an employee's name and it will begin to pre-populate for you. So once you get in, you'll select that respective employee and then it will open up their profile page. So we'll go ahead and select that employee. Matter of fact, I actually need to take a step back. Give me just a moment as I return. What I like to do is make sure that I'm showing you, I'm demonstrating everything for you from an HRL perspective. So what we're going to do is go ahead and impersonate an HRL. And then from there, once I get into the HRL's view, I am then going to search for that same employee. And then we'll be able to look at what that employee sees. All right, so now we're looking at an HRL's view. And under that HRL is this particular employee's file. So again, I search for that employee under that user list. I am able to confirm that I have the correct employee because I'm able to confirm their name at the top of the screen. Again, you see this Files tab. Under this Files tab is what we're calling the Employee Checklist Dashboard. This is where we're able to quickly monitor all of the checklists that have been assigned to the employee. I do want to preface that with saying that you as an HRL are not going to be charged with assigning any checklist initially throughout this process. That is going to be a primary responsibility of our onboarding team. So our onboarding teams will be notified when an employee's hiring proposal has been finalized, and at that time, the employee will be assigned respective checklists. The reason why we decided to take on that responsibility in-house is because at this present time, all of the checklists are universal in nature in terms of it is for every employee type. Every single employee, regardless of what department they're going to be hiring in, has the exact same task that they need to complete. Now, what I do want to mention is, again, you're going to hear me say this a ton of times throughout this training, but as you guys begin to become familiar with this module and this platform, we do want you guys to begin taking ownership and be thinking about ways that you can customize, personalize, make this module very departmental specific. So again, as I begin to show you things such as the different checklists that have been assigned to an employee, if you can think of some respective tasks that an employee needs to take that is unique to your department, do be thinking about those things, even jot them down. What we will encourage you to do is to reach out to either myself, Amy Bruce, Leanne Fuller, communicate with us, and we will try to begin developing your specific checklist for your employees. Now, what it will not do is veer from the checklists that have already been assigned. So hands down, the employees will be assigned the university level checklist. But if you can think of some internal departmental specific tasks that need to be assigned as well, we will create a respective checklist for those areas, okay? So, again, what you see here on the personnel files is the employee checklist dashboard. So all of the employees' checklists will show in this burgundy-ish color. You are, again, able to confirm that you're looking at the checklist because there's a little clipboard icon in the top left corner. Each checklist is assigned by name. Just to tell you a little bit about how we develop these checklists, the checklists are broken down into two different, I don't want to say categories. It's two different types of checklists. The first type of checklist is going to be by employee type. So this is where you're going to see our full-time employees, our part-time employee differences, faculty is different. You're going to have your graduate students, undergraduate students. So it's by employee type. So each employee type has a respective checklist that needs to be complete. Then you will it's also broken down by categories. The categorical ones are going to be things like I-9 completion, audit and compliance, the benefits eligible one, as you see here as well. So again, the reason why we broke these down in the way that we did, one, originally we started in more of just an employee type. But then we were notified by PeopleAdmin that these respective checklists are also associated with due dates. And because it's associated with the due date, there are some time-sensitive tasks that need to be complete in different phases. So for instance, to give you a little bit more context related to that, the I-9 completion needs to be completed within 3 days. If we assign that employee checklist to that employee and attach a due date of 3 days because it needs to be completed, that means that the employee must complete all of those respective tasks within a 3-day period. And that's not necessarily the case. Other tasks that need to be completed that are time sensitive would be something like SANS training. That SANS training is something that needs to be completed within 30 days. So again, we wanted to make sure that the scope of the checklist was appropriate in terms of the time that they are assigned and the time that we expected to be completed. So again, I definitely wanted to give you some context related to the checklist. What we'll do at this time is look at these checklists in greater depth so that way you have a better understanding of what you're looking at when you're in this view. So what I've done is just clicked on one of the checklists. And as you can see here, it's showing that the I-9 completion is a task that's being required. Again, I do want to make sure that I communicate with you all that Section 2 of I-9 completion is no longer going to be done in the field. That is something that has also been brought into the onboarding center. So that is now a responsibility of our onboarding specialist team. So again, this respective task has been assigned to the employee where they need to go into the system and complete Section 1 of the I-9 form. And then from there, after they've completed Section 1, our onboarding team will be notified that Section 1 has been done and that now it is time to complete Section 2. All right. So as you can see here, it shows this respective task that has been assigned to that employee. It also shows you the responsible user, who's responsible for the action at this moment. I can tell just from looking at the way that this is listed right now that this particular employee has already completed their portion of it, and now the workflow has transitioned into the employee, the onboarding team. So now it's telling me that the responsible user is now on the onboarding side, and that it is also confirming that in the status, it's showing me that it is in workflow. So again, the employee has already completed their portion, and now it is transitioning workflow. I'll show you some other some additional checklists as well, so that way again you can see it in a greater depth. So as we're looking at now, I've opened up the administrative and professional full-time external employee checklist. Again, we did also break down external, internal employees because again, their respective tasks differ as well. So again, what we're looking at is the task. As you can see here, this is where we've incorporated that W-4, A-4, and C-4 tax form. Again, you will no longer have to take in that documentation. That documentation will go directly into the system. As soon as the employee completes and files their tax form, it goes directly to our payroll department. Same thing with that personal data form. As soon as the employee completes the personal data form, it will go directly to our records department here in HR. So again, it's showing us the respective tasks that need to be complete on the employee's behalf. It's showing me all of the responsible users. Again, majority of the time you're going to see the employee's name as a responsible party, but you may also see some other names. So again, if it is something that is a part of a workflow process, you will see that who's responsible for it at this time. You will also see, if you look toward the bottom, you see some that says supervisor. The ones that say supervisor are going to be tasks that are assigned to the supervisor on behalf of that employee. It is associated with a respective checklist. So again, as you can see, for example, you see request desktop setup. As soon as this checklist is assigned to the employee, the supervisor will also receive an email notification saying that there are some actionable tasks that they need to take on behalf of the employee. These tasks are going to be things such as, contacting the computing coordinator to ensure that the employee has a computer set up at their desk, that they have a phone set up if necessary. We also have access request forms. So again, making sure that the supervisor or department admin, again, this may not always be the supervisor who's responsible, but whomever you deem as the appropriate person to complete these actions will appear here. So again, if access needs to be requested, the supervisor or department admin will receive notification. As you can see, there's also these ignore buttons that are here in the middle as well. The ignore button is if this is something that is not applicable to this particular employee, you as the HRL can go in and ignore that that task, and it will not be sent to them as something that needs to be completed. So for instance, down here at the very bottom where it's grayed out and it says review campus map, I know that this employee went to undergrad here. They're very familiar with the campus. They don't need to review the campus map, and therefore I've ignored that task. Now again, if it is something that you say, hey, doesn't necessarily need to be ignored, you don't have to ignore it. I don't want you to feel like you're obligated to monitor, who went to undergrad here, who needs to see it. For the most part, even if we left it unchecked and it was something that an employee could look at, there are certain resources that are embedded into this system. So for instance, we have uploaded the campus map in this platform, and it is one of the tasks. All the employee really would have to do is just click it, view the map, and then click mark is done, and that task will disappear. So again, it's nothing that's too daunting of an employee. So if you decided to leave that unchecked, it's not a problem. It won't make or break the employee's onboarding experience. All right. Any questions or concerns about what we see here? As you can see at the top right corner, it shows us 12%. So this is letting us know that this respective checklist is about 12% complete. Again, as the employee continues to complete tasks, you will then see that the percentage will change, and hopefully it'll go up and not down as it just did just now. As I unchecked a couple of boxes, it will show hopefully 100% at some point. All right, any questions or concerns about the checklist? Again, I do want to make sure that you're aware the audit and compliance is going to be your SANS training, ethics training, conflict of interest, driver safety. Again, you can't ignore those tasks if it is not applicable to that respective employee. And we also have the benefits eligible one. This will entail all of the NEO requirements. So that new employee orientation, all of that is found in this respective checklist. I will pause just in case we did have any questions. Stephanie, are you there?
I am, and no questions in the chat.
Phenomenal. Thank you so much, ma'am. I appreciate you. All right, so the next thing that I want to show you is the file folders. The file folders along the right side of this particular screen. This is where any documents that the employee is completing, all of their documents are then being directed into a respective folder. Now, depending on your permissions in the system, there are some things that you may have access to or may not have access to. So the first thing that I can think of is the payroll folder. The only individuals within the university that have access to an employee's payroll folder is going to be our payroll department. The payroll folder has things like the tax forms that have been filed. Now, although you as an HRL may not be able to see the tax forms themselves that have been filed, you are able to still monitor the employee's completion of those respective forms, and I'll show you how to do that in just a few moments. But I did want to make sure that I communicated that to you. So what we'll do is talk about these folders. As you can see here, there's a personnel folder, a professional development folder, and a resources folder. At this time, we are not utilizing the professional development and resources folder from an HR perspective. However, you as an HRL, you may identify that there are some, documentations or something that you are doing that's departmental specific that would, complement these respective folders. Please feel free, if you would like documents to be directed into those folders, we can. Just please communicate that again to either myself, Amy, Bruce, Leanne, or any of the onboarding specialists or TES teams, and we will make sure that we set that up for you. Again, even if there are some things that you'd like to set up prior to June 1st when this goes live, I'd be happy to get that set up for you. Just please communicate that to me. If there are also folders that you would like created that do not fit this professional development and resources mold, that's fine as well. We can create new folders in the system. So the next thing I wanted to show you is inside the folder. So the personnel folder is where I'm going to open up because you do have access to this personnel folder. In this folder, you will see what we call sleeves. Within these sleeves, each one of them is titled. What happens is as the employee completes a particular document, that document is then filtered into one of these respective sleeves. There are some folders or sleeves that you see that are duplicated. This was not done in error. It is very intentional. What we did was those employees that are TES employees, what we wanted to do was extract their documents out. So all TES files are being directed into a TES sleeve, even if it's for the same document or documentation as a full-time or part-time employee. We just wanted to make sure that those documents were stored separately. So as you can see here, there are a couple of things that I want to highlight as we look in these sleeves. The first thing that I want to show you is above each sleeve, you will see a notation of some sort. The notation will let you know where this particular document is, whether it is in process. If you see in process, that means that the employee has started the document but has not completed it. If that is the case, it will notate in process. However, one thing that I love about this system is that even if a document is in process, you as an HRL are still able to view it. So what I love about it is if an employee contacts you and says, I submitted my personnel data form, you can go in and say, it doesn't appear that it's been filed, and so I can look at it, and all you need to do is click the sleeve itself. That document will open up even as it is in process. So this means that the employee has partially completed this document. I love it because you can see it. So the employee tells you, I've completed it. You can scroll through it and say, it looks like they left several areas blank. And so then I can communicate back to that employee like, hey, I've taken a look at that document. It does appear that you left several required fields unchecked, and therefore it is not considered to be finalized. Please go back in and complete those respective areas. And at the very bottom, this is where I do anticipate some employees being a bit tricked up. If they've completed it in its entirety, but they click Save Draft instead of Save Final, what will happen is, again, that document will still show as in process. In order for the document to be considered finalized, they must hit the Save Final button instead, all right? Again, if the employee completes the document, instead of hitting Save Draft or Save Final, they hit Close, it will do the same thing. It will not process and finalize that document. So again, I do love this feature because it allows us to see it in real time, which sections the employee has completed. If the employee contacts you and says, hey, I'm a little confused about this particular question, I can open it up and I can assist them accordingly, all right? If the employee attempts to complete the document, but there are some required fields that they have not completed, again, what I do love about this system is once they hit save final, it will notify them that there are certain areas within this that have not been completed. What the system does is it highlights the fields in a yellow form, and here it is. It highlights it in a bright yellow color, so that way they know it is something that they need to complete prior to finalizing the document. All right, wonderful. All right, so those are in-process documents. The next thing is the in-workflow document. So as you can see here, it is showing you an in-workflow document. What this means is that the employee has completed their responsibility, but now it is now shifted to another workflow state. So I can also monitor that progress. I can see what the employee has filed. So I can just click this document here. It lets me see that this employee has completed the employee handbook location acknowledgement form. And if I scroll down, it will let me see where the workflow state is. So at this time, it appears that now it's under review with HRD. And it also shows me that forthcoming, or what's coming after that step, is HR records will have to approve this document before it is considered to be finalized. We'll talk a little bit more in depth about the workflow states in just a few moments, but I did want to at least show you what that looks like and how at all times you can monitor the status of any document. The only time you could not monitor the status of a document is if an employee has not started, but there again is not much to see. All you'll know is that the employee has not started it at all. That will be depicted by, let's say, if this invitation to oh, here we go, perfect. This invitation to self-identify as a protected veteran, this one here, this one is a blank document. I can still click it. I can scroll down and see that the employee has not taken any action on it whatsoever. So that means the employee has not started this document at all. The documents are being auto-saved. That was a message that just popped up. I do want to make sure that I communicate that to you. So anything that the employee puts in there, after about a minute or two, the system is auto-saving that information. So I am grateful for that as well. So as an employee begins to complete, let's say like that personal data form, which is pretty extensive, we have added a couple of sections to it. As they continue within that document, if they need to stop for any reason, if the computer crashes, if they get an error message like we did earlier, the system is still saving that document in anything that they put in. So as they return, it will pick up where they left off. So I am grateful for that as well. The last thing that I want to show you on this particular page is this invitation to self. If a document has been filed and it is completed through all steps of the workflow, it will show as like a sheet of paper inside the sleeve. PeopleAdmin calls it a Polaroid. However you like to deem it, you will see something stuck inside that sleeve, and that will let you know that that particular document has completed the entire process, as you see here for this invitation to self-identify as a protected veteran. All right? Wonderful. Any questions or concerns about the documents, where they're being filed and shifted? Hopefully you guys are following along pretty well. All right, so up until this point, I've shown you how to log in. I've shown you the view from an HRL and how to access an employee. I've also shown you the checklist dashboard, and I've also shown you the different files and file folders. The next thing that I'd like to show you at this time is from the employee's perspective. So what we're going to do is end impersonation of the HRL, and now we're going to impersonate the employee. Now I'm logged in as an employee. I do want to make sure that I show you this in depth, only because I do anticipate that you may intercept some questions from a new hire employee as they are navigating through this platform. So I want to make sure that you understand what their view looks like in case they have any questions or concerns. All right, so we are now in a new employee's homepage. This is the very first thing that they're going to see. Again, it opens up with the My Tasks. As you can see along the right corner, those icons have been reduced significantly. They do still have the My Tasks icon. They have the blank documents icon, and they also have their respective file folder. I do want to show you that file folder because, again, you do see that it's a little bit more expanded at this point. Any documents that the employee needs to retrieve, or if, let's say, they filed their tax form, but they're not sure if they made an error on it, what they can do is go back, click the payroll folder. They can open up any of those documents. So again, I'm going to open up the A4 form, and then I can scroll down and kind of see what I input into the system when I submitted it. So I think that's very helpful. All right, I'm going to navigate back to my task. And here I see several different tasks that still needs my attention that I need to complete. All right, the very first thing that I want to talk to you guys about are the different type of tasks. The very first task that this employee has to complete, and not all, but just for this example, the first task that this employee is being asked to complete is a W-4 form. The W-4 form, tax form, is something that is a federal form that PeopleAdmin is supporting, which means that they are providing all maintenance to that document. In the event that the document is updated, let's say within the next year, PeopleAdmin will do all of the maintenance to update that document. The other thing that's related to this is because they support this document, it has the exact same look and feel as the original document. So I'm going to open that up for you so that way you can see what I'm talking about. Here we go. We do have the W-4 form here. Again, it does look exactly like a hard copy form. This is what they consider to be a fillable PDF. This fillable PDF allows the employee to type directly into the field. Again, it does have the respective asterisk for required fields. I think I have my numbers locked off. All right, perfect. So the employee will just kind of navigate throughout the entire form. Once the employee, I know what I was getting ready to say. Once the employee has completed filling out all the respective forms, they are able to sign within this document. So again, they're going to sign here, select our date, and then we would hit save. Once we hit save here, it will finalize that document and it will submit it again. Like I said, as soon as we hit save, it goes directly to our payroll department. So we hit save. It's not going to allow me to. It should not allow me to. I was getting ready to say because I didn't fill out all the fields. So because I did not fill out all the fields, it did give me an error message telling me that I needed to complete this form. But hey, you know what? I need to talk to my spouse about what I need to complete. So I'm not going to finish this form at this time. I'm going to go ahead and cancel out. Again, if I cancel out that document, it will return to my needs attention tab, so that way I am reminded that I still need to complete it. And again, it should save all of the information that I've already put in that document. All right, the next form that I'd like to show you is going to be those tax forms again. I can go to my completed task because I, as the employee, have already completed my A4 and C4 tax forms. The A4 and C4 tax forms, because they are state and city specific, are not supported by PeopleAdmin, so they do not have the same look and feel as the hard copy form. However, we did get approval from our payroll unit that it is acceptable as long as we were requesting all the exact same fields. So I do want to demonstrate what that looks like because it is not a fillable PDF. It is actually what we consider to be an e-form, an electronic form. This electronic form will, an advantage to this electronic form is that it will pull in certain information. Anything that employee has put into another form or something that may perhaps be pulling in from ATS, such as their name, it will pre-populate for them, so that's an area they don't need to complete. The social is still something they'll need to complete, their address respectively. And again, they would just complete this form in its entirety. I do want to note for you though, that the signature, as I showed you in that fillable PDF, does not live inside of this document. The signature field actually is a component of the workflow state, which means that after the employee completes this document and hits submit, they will then be prompted to sign the document. The signature will appear as a timestamp. It will have their name in print, and then it will be timestamped as well. All right, I will show you that in just a few moments. It does show here, but I want to show you in real time what that signature looks like. So I will demonstrate that for you shortly when we get to the workflow part of this demonstration. So again, this is an A4 form that the employee will complete. I'm going to return to my needs attention so I can show you some other tasks. So up until this point, I've shown you the fillable PDF that the employee needs to complete. I've shown you some e-forms. There are a couple of other tasks that the employee may need to complete as well. There's certain tasks that are going to be required of an employee that does not live inside of this platform. Certain tasks that are aligned with this category are going to be things that need to be completed in AU Access, so to speak. So let's say activating their AU Access account, setting up their AU alerts, completing their direct deposit, installing Duo. All of these actions need to be done outside of the platform. So in order for them to complete those respective tasks, all they need to do is click View. And what will happen is a set of instructions will display for them. So here I've opened up, I know I need to set up my Duo. It gives me a brief explanation of what Duo is, and it tells me what I need to do in order to set that up. So here it says, visit the following link to install Duo. So what I'll do is just copy here, and perhaps what I will say is, I may detail specifically they need to copy the link because they are not able to just click it directly. So what we'll do is we'll copy the link, and then in a separate browser, the employee will need to paste that link inside of again, a different browser, and then take all actions that are requested in that framework. In order for them to complete this particular action, is all they need to do is click Save Final, and it will remove this task from their needs attention till they're completed. If, let's say, they got halfway through these instructions and it did not go well, then all they have to do is close out or save draft, and when they do so, it will return to their needs attention. All right? So again, these are particular tasks that are required of the employee that do not live inside of this platform, that they need to take action in another platform. Again, it will display as just instructions. The next thing is, remember I mentioned to you there are certain resources that we've uploaded into the system as well. So something such as review the campus map. It should appear as a resource that displays when they click this task. Based on what I'm looking at right now, I don't think that particular document was attached to it, but I still wanted to show you what a mark as done looks like. So basically, there are certain tasks that an employee may be assigned that there are no specific instructions for it. It's just something that they need to complete. If that is the case, they will have this mark as done icon, and basically what happens is as soon as they click mark as done, that task will be completed, all right? So again, I demonstrated that from the Review Campus Map. Normally, when an employee sees that Review Campus Map task, it will be associated with a resource that will pull up for them. They will be able to look at the resource within this platform, and they will be able to continue on. After they close out, it will mark that task as being complete. So any questions about the tasks that have been assigned to the employee? There is one more that I want to demonstrate for you, and that would be the signature. Now, the signature, I'm going to go back and transition from the employee's point of view to the HRL. At this time, I think I've already completed that task. Hold tight, let's take a look. I think that's what it is. I've already completed this respective task, so it's not showing up as a signature. But what we'll do is we'll hone in on the workflow state. Basically, what I wanted to show you, and this is primarily because we demonstrated this and I completed the task yesterday for the group that we had, so that icon is no longer populating, but I am going to explain it to you in its entirety so that way you don't feel like you've missed anything. Basically, what happens is when you are required to complete a signature, you will have a button. So I'm going to go back just one step. Where we see view here, that button will actually display a sign. It will say sign, approve, or review. Basically, you would click that button in order for your signature to be added to a document. So again, I am going to display it very quickly for you. And we'll scroll down so that way you can view it. When you want to view a workflow, so again, it's still an appropriate segue because the next thing that I was going to show you besides that button was the workflow state. What you do is in order for you to view a document that has now been queued into a workflow state, in order to access it, again, we've opened up this document and then all we do is scroll all the way down to the very bottom and then this workflows box will appear. Within this workflow, it will allow me to see several different things. The first thing is I can see and confirm that the employee has submitted the document. If the document was in process, it will display a status where it says current status here. It will say in process. And at this time, it's showing that the employee has submitted their portion. It did timestamp that for me, so it does show that the employee submitted this document on 5/19/2020 at 3:39 p.m., and it was submitted by the supervisor. So this particular document, the probationary review form, as well as the initial review forms, I do want to talk a little bit about those. These are documents that are associated with checklists that are assigned to the supervisor. So what happens is when an onboarding specialist assigns that 90-day task or checklist to the employee, this supervisor will receive a notification that there is action that they need to take on their behalf. There is no correspondence that's sent to the employee. The only person that will receive a notification is the supervisor. The supervisor will receive an email that says, hey, you need to complete this probationary review form. They will complete it. After they've completed their portion, it will then go to the employee. So that's the first step in this workflow. So after I, as a supervisor, complete that document, it will then be sent to the employee. So the employee can then review the document that I've submitted on their behalf. After they sign that document, it will then go to the it will come back to me as the supervisor, so that way I can, one, confirm that they did in fact sign. If they didn't sign or if they refuse to sign, I will be able to notate that on my behalf, because that document then comes back to me. And then after I sign the document, it then goes to my HRL. All right, so once the document goes to the HRL will then be notified that they must sign. I will mention that this is the only actionable task on behalf of an HRL in this platform. So at this time, that is the only document that you have any action to take on. That is, again, the probationary review form or that initial review form. All right. So after I, as the HRL, sign that document, it will then move on to the next state in the workflow, which is then going to our employee relations. After it is approved by employee relations, you then see in the next workflow state that it must then be reviewed by our HR records unit. And then after that, that document is then filed in our records. So any questions about the workflow state? Again, I do apologize that I completed this workflow for, let's say, about 4 sessions straight. I avoided completing the task, and then yesterday I got, I guess, button happy and I clicked it. So unfortunately, I was not able to demonstrate. But again, the only thing that you missed was that this button here, instead of saying view, actually says sign. So any questions or concerns about the workflow? All right, everyone feeling pretty good up until this point? All right, so thus far, we have talked about, we've looked at the employee's view, we've looked at our HRL's view, we've looked at that checklist dashboard, we've looked at the files and file folders, we've also looked at workflows. The next thing that I like to show you guys at this time is the reporting feature. All right, so in the reporting feature, I think this is one of my favorite areas in this module, primarily because I really find that this is where you're going to spend a lot of your time here. And in addition to that, I think it's going to just make you much more efficient in your processes, especially if you're managing large cases of employees that need to be onboarded. So where we'll start at this time is I clicked the reports feature along the top right menu bar. I clicked that icon. It opened up the reports. These along the left side are the different reports that you can access. I am going to go through each one of them in depth for you. The very first one that populated for us is the checklist completion. Now, up until this point, we have only looked at an individual's view of the onboarding process. So in other words, we've only looked at one respective employee. But again, I anticipate that, again, as we approach the beginning of the fall term, that you may be onboarding anywhere between 20, 30, 50 people. And so you may want to monitor all of these employees at one time. So this will allow you to see that at a glance. So what we'll do is select the appropriate checklist. So again, keep in mind that the checklists are broken down by respective employee types and by actionable tasks that are time sensitive. And so I want to, at this time, to look at all of my AMP full-time external employees, and I want to check the status of completion of tasks that have been assigned to them. So what I'll do is I selected that checklist. What happens is all of the employees that fit that category will display for me. It does show me the respective departments that they're in. It also shows me the date that task has been assigned or that checklist was assigned to them. And then again, it shows me all of their respective tasks as well. I can also customize this. So let's say I don't need to see anyone that was onboarded in March, because I know that they've already completed everything. I can also customize this, filter that date to something that may be closer to maybe a 30-day period to allow me to see things of that nature. Or again, if I did want to see everyone, I can broaden that scope as well. The other thing that I wanted to talk to you about is, again, it does display all the tasks that have been assigned to that respective checklist. Anything that's grayed out is something that is not the responsibility of the employee or a task that has been ignored. It will display in a gray feature. Anything that is in black is a required task. The same thing here, as you start to look down, if you see anything that has a circle but an X out, it means it was not assigned to that employee. If you see a large circle that with an X through it, that just means that that task was ignored. If it is just a circle and it is blank, that means the employee has been assigned the task, but they have not completed it at all. If you see a circle that is completely green, filled in green, it means that the employee has completed their portion of the task, but it is a task that is a part of a workflow state, and that task has not been completed all the way through all states of that workflow. The next one would be, as you can imagine, a circle, a green circle with a check mark inside. If that is, that means that that task has been completed. The employee has done their part. If it is a part of the workflow, it has finalized the workflow process as well. Again, what I do love about this feature is if I hover over it, it timestamps everything. Not only does it tell me when that assignment, when that task was assigned, but it also tells me when that task was completed by the employee with the date and the respective time. So I love this. I think this is a really great feature. I do see how this could be easily incorporated in your current processes to give you more real-time awareness of where employees are. So hopefully, again, this will expedite our processes in terms of the onboarding experience. Any questions about this? Let's say I noticed, just by looking at this, that I have several employees that have not done much. And so, again, just to make sure that they recognize that this will impact their first day, so to speak, or just impact their experience altogether, that they still need a lot of things completed before we can successfully onboard them. What I can do is I can select this here. What I'll do is click this checkbox. It will check all employees. I'm going to go ahead and uncheck Jean, and I'll also unclick Allie, because it does look like they are diligently completing respective tasks. So I don't want to bombard them with notifications. But what I will do is give a heads up to the rest of these employees, and I will send them a reminder. So what I'm going to do is under here where it says bulk actions, I'm going to send a reminder to all of them. So all I have to do is click go, and it will send all of these employees a reminder email saying, hey, you got some outstanding tasks that are associated with this checklist that need to be completed. Again, the system itself will also send notifications, and we'll talk about that after we conclude with the reports. And once we do so, it will notify the employee accordingly. All right. So we're going to transition from the checklist completion, and now we're going to go to the folder contents. As I mentioned to you previously, when we were looking at the employees file folders, there are certain folders that you do not have access to see. However, if you wanted to look at employees, let's say their payroll forms, you want to see to what extent your employees have completed those tax forms. This particular view, now, when we looked at that checklist completion, it did have, and I'm going to just go back very quickly just so you can see, it did have those A4, those tax forms listed here, so W4, A4, and C4, but again, I was only able to view it for this particular employee type. Let's say that I wanted to look at it for all employees that I'm onboarding, which would encompass our part-time, full-time, graduate students, faculty members. By looking at it from this folder contents view, it will allow me to see all employees that fit this mold. All right, so what I'm going to do is select the folder. I do know that those tax forms are a part of the payroll folder, so I'm going to select that payroll folder, and then it will bring up every single employee that I have under me, and it will let me see to what extent they've completed respective checklists. So again, here it is. I can see that Gene has completed his C4. He has not completed his A4 or W4. Jacqueline, however, has completed all of her tax forms, so I'm very proud of her. If I needed to export this information into an Excel spreadsheet so that way I could quickly filter or manipulate that information, I can do so by clicking this export feature or this export icon. That is also an icon that was accessible to the checklist completion one as well. I just overlooked it and forgot to explain it. However, I did want to make sure that I noted it here. Again, as you can see, we've got those same little icons. If it is something that is completed, the process is going to display here. If it has not been complete, it will just be a white circle. All right, any questions about this? As you can see here, direct deposit, I do want to hone in on that because it can cause some confusion. Our employees will not be setting up direct deposit within this platform at all. They will still set up their direct deposit in AU Access. However, what this particular task shows is an employee, again, will get it will be a task associated with the checklist that says that they need to set up their direct deposit. Once they click that they have completed that task, it will then display here. So again, that is when we see this direct deposit field here, this is not meaning that they set it up in this platform. What this means is that they acknowledge that they have completed that action in AU Access. So I definitely wanted to make sure I clarify that with you guys today. So any questions or concerns about the folder one? All right, if not, we're going to move along to the expiring documents. Again, this is an area that we're not necessarily using at all. At this time, HR does not find, we don't have a use for the expiring documents, but again, this is where I want you guys to be really thinking hard about how you can incorporate any of the functionality of PeopleAdmin employee records module into your current processes. If, let's say, that there is a document that you can think of that is renewable, so the employee has to constantly fill it out. The best example that I can give you is related to the athletics department, where they have an NCAA compliance checklist form that, not checklist, an NCAA compliance form that must be submitted by all employees annually. If this was a document that they wanted to pull into this employee records module, again, I do want to make note to clarify that it will only touch new employees that are onboarded into the system. It will also touch supervisors if they have access into the system. So again, this is not all inclusive to the entire university population. So do be mindful as how you will incorporate this into your system. However, I did want to make sure that you were aware that this function did exist. So again, expiring documents. The athletics department has the NCAA compliance form that must be completed by all employees annually. So what this does is, if this was a document that I assigned to that employee, what it does is it makes note of when that document was submitted. If I say that that document is set to expire a year from now, then what will happen is I can run this report to see what employees have this document on file, when is set to expire. Has it already expired and the employee has not submitted it? It will also notify me when that when that document is set to expire in 30, 60, 90-day increments. And then it will also allow me to view that document as well. So again, if this is something that you think would be helpful for you, again, please communicate with myself, Amy, Bruce, Leanne, Fuller, if you like a document uploaded into the system that you can utilize in this capacity. Again, if there are documents that are set to expire, I can again utilize this feature where I can select all employees. I can use this bulk actions to send them a reminder or request the document. It will give us both options. It's only giving me one right now because there are no documents here, but I can send reminders or request a document if necessary. All right. The next thing that I want to show you is blank documents. Again, I've already talked to you about what a blank document is. Again, a blank document would be something that is freestanding. Hopefully now you have a greater context as to what that looks like now that I've demonstrated what the checklists are. So again, this will be a document that is not associated with the respective checklist, but it is something that I want the employee to complete as a part of their onboarding experience or outside of that initial 30, 60, 90-day increment. So basically, again, if this was that emergency contact form that I wanted to utilize, basically what would happen is I would have that document freestanding so the employee could access it at any time, submit it. Once it is submitted, I can run this report and it will show me who's been assigned that particular document, who's submitted it, how many times they've submitted, and whether it has been complete if I assigned it to them. So again, at this time, we don't have any documents that live in this capacity. But again, if you think of something that would be beneficial to your unit, please communicate that and we can get that set up for you prior to the June 1st launch. All right, the last thing that I want to show you related to the reports, I think I say the best for last. For me, I love the custom report because I really can envision you all in the field utilizing this to really make you much more efficient, to be able to provide some data, whether it be to department heads that will be very beneficial related to the scope of your new employees. So what I'm going to show you is how you can utilize this report. And with this particular report, you can add different user information. So anything related to that employee, we can, pull all employees' birthdays. So if I wanted to start, recognizing employees for their date of birth, I can run a report and it will quickly generate that information for me. If let's say I wanted to find information about a respective department. Again, some of you HRLs have a ton of departments under you, so if I just needed to pull information related to a specific department, I can do so. And we'll leave it there just for demonstration purposes. I can also pull different form elements. So what it will do is it will allow me to select a respective checklist. So I'm going to pull a checklist for me real quick. Any forms that are a part of that checklist, I can pull that form. I'm going to pull a personal data form, and then I can pull certain elements of that form. I really love this feature because I can absolutely see you guys utilizing this at some point. What I'm looking for is I would like to find all employees that have a master's degree. What I want to do is communicate to my department head, that we have started to see an upward trend in advanced degrees related to our A&P staff. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull that educational level. I'm going to hit OK, and then I'm going to run that report. So we can hit view report. I'm not going to do that because no one has really filled out that personal data form. But at some point, once it starts to fill up with real data, you may find this very beneficial. So what, again, I will do is I'll hit that view report, and it will then start extracting all of that documentation from me. And then I can then extract that report, maybe put it in Excel, maybe put it in some infographics, and then present that to my departmental heads, and again, really utilize this to benefit you in your ability to quickly analyze some data that you have from the onboarding module. So any questions or concerns about the reporting feature? All right. So the last thing that I like to demonstrate for you all at this time is the email notifications. So there are a ton of notifications that are going to be initiated from this module. The first thing that's going to be sent out is, again, going to be an email notification to the employee when a checklist has been assigned to them. So basically what happens is I've been assigned a checklist that I will receive an email notification from the module. I'm going to demonstrate it because I'm getting tongue-tied. It's an hour and 10 minutes of talking. I'm getting tongue-tied here, so I'm going to just show you better than I can tell you. So basically what will happen is I can see that I, as an employee, has been assigned a checklist. I will get this welcome to Auburn email. It says, hello, John, you're receiving this message because you've been assigned a respective checklist. Please log in below. The employee will be able to utilize this quick link here to access the module. They'll log in with their credentials and they'll be able to navigate through whatever assigned task that is associated with that checklist. All right, other email notifications that will be sent by this module. Anytime if you are tied or tagged to that employee, such as the supervisor, the department admin, or even the HRL, if you are the responsible party, you will also receive notifications related to that employee's task assignments. If you have any specific actionable tasks that you must take, you will receive a notification of that as well. So basically what that email will look like is you have been assigned new tasks. It will have the specific task listed. The employee's name is listed there, and then it will have the link for you to quickly click on so that way you can access it and complete it as well. All right. Any tasks that are outstanding, if it is associated with a due date, the employee will receive notification reminders that they need to complete that and that there is an approaching due date. Also, if you needed to request any documents from a particular employee, again, I think this is in relation to those blank documents, they will receive an email notification related to that. There are also some workflow notifications that are being sent. If there is a signature that is required, again, you will, as an HRL, will absolutely receive an email notification related to that probationary review form as well as that initial review form. If a document is, let's say, requesting revision, so I can give you a great example of this. I met with our payroll team just the other day as we went through this module, and they said that oftentimes they are having to communicate back with employees when they have completed those tax forms incorrectly. So what this system will now allow them to do is communicate with that employee in real time. They'll be able to send an email to that, not an email, they will be able to send a notification to that employee that says, hey, there is an error in this document. We are resending it to you. And they will be able to make note of where the error is, have that employee make that update to that document and send it right back to them. So again, it is almost instantaneously that a lot of this stuff is happening. So again, we absolutely foresee a reduced time in that paperwork processing, and hopefully we can get employees into the system much quicker than they have in the past. The next thing that I wanted,
We do have a question.
Yeah, go ahead, Stephanie.
Will the data and custom report be in regards to new employees only, or will all employee info show?
I absolutely love that question. Yes, it will only involve new employees. So again, I do recognize that scope is not going to be super beneficial to you guys. But we did not, as we began to talk about this module and how we would integrate it, there was no conversation related to bringing in past employees' information into this system. So again, I still think it can be beneficial to you. Again, if you wanted to show some data related to trends within employees that you have recently onboarded, I do think it's beneficial in that way. I do see the downside in not having it be full circle and encompass all employees. So I do apologize for that related to this. But yes, it does give you only a limited scope of new employees. But that is a phenomenal question. I do apologize for not highlighting that. Any other questions? All right, so the last thing I wanted to make sure that I noted for you guys is that the new employee orientation correspondences that used to be sent out by Penny Houston and our HRD team are now going to be a part of this module. So those notifications will no longer be sent by her and her staff. At this time, or effective June 1st, those notifications are going to be sent through PeopleAdmin. So as soon as an employee is assigned a NEO checklist, they will receive an email communication notifying them of that they've been scheduled for NEO, and it will provide them with directions and parking and all of that great information as well. So I wanted to make sure that I communicated that, because I do know that in the past, a lot of people were copied on that notification. At this time, it is my understanding that scope of who's going to be copied is very limited. We are still doing some testing just to see if we can add some people within that notification so more people know that employee has been scheduled, but that is not, all the kinks of that has not been worked out, but we do hope to get that finalized prior to June 1st. So without further ado, that ends or concludes my demonstration to you all. I do want to open up the remaining time for any questions that you may have. If you don't have any questions, that's perfectly fine. I do encourage you guys to play around in the system when it releases on June 1st. Again, please reference that user guide that you've been provided. If you don't have a copy of that user guide, don't hesitate to reach out to me. I can be reached at KER0004@auburn.edu. Again, I am Christine Ball. It's been more than a pleasure demonstrating this module to you. I've spent the past 5 months ingrained in this, so I am so excited to launch this out with you guys. Of course, with the assistance of Jenna, who's been my backbone through this the entire way. So I appreciate her being on all of these calls with me. And again, just everybody that's been a part of this. So thank you all for spending your morning with me. I'm going to turn it over to Stephanie in case there are any questions.
There are no questions at this time.
I think I see one. Do you see one that says any notification regarding international documents?
Oh, yes, I am sorry about that. Will any notifications regarding international documents be sent to any new employees through this module?
Yes, it's a phenomenal question. So as you can see here, it is highlighted. I'm so glad that you asked that question. I do want to reference that. So I am going to take just a couple moments to talk about the international component. There is an email notification that will be triggered for them to complete their foreign national tax compliance. Hold 1 second. Okay. Thank you, Stephanie. I saw you corrected my email address. I saw that as well. All right, perfect. The other thing that I wanted to show you was that foreign aid. So they will receive an email notification saying that they need to complete that tax compliance form. It is not incorporated in this module, so it's not an e-form, but what it is it's that same task that I showed you guys where it's a set of instructions. That is a separate checklist that is being assigned to employees. So I am going to go here. All right, so where you see that foreign national employee there's two. There's a non-permanent resident, and then there's the additional one as well. So basically what happens is we will assign that to foreign nationals, and then they are going to be assigned instructions. So again, here we see a foreign national tax form instructions. This is where they will read about all the documentation that they will need to complete that form. And then the next respective task that they will receive is to complete that tax form online. And it does give the website of where they need to complete that action. So I think that's a great question. So thank you very much for asking that. And I do apologize for not highlighting the foreign national component of this process.
We have two more questions. The first
All right,
one.
I'm ready. Yep.
All right. The first one says, will training by provided, I'm guessing it's, will training be provided from a department admin perspective versus HRL? I am still not quite sure
Yep.
what the department admin tasks will be.
Great question. All right, couple of things. So there will be no further training related to that unless you identify a need, and then I'd be happy to schedule one with you or with those department admins, because basically what happens is it's exactly the same. So I will demonstrate that for you. I think I did create a department admin or view. So again, I almost canceled the whole meeting. I don't think y'all want that to happen. All right, hold tight. Get my bearings straight really quickly. All right, let me see. All right. So this department admin individual right here, this is one that I created from a department admin standpoint. And so what happens is the scope is just slightly different. So remember when I impersonated that HRL? And what happened with that HRL was I had a huge list of employees. But as you can see here, I only have one employee listed. So this is very similar to that supervisor's view. The department admin's view is exactly the same. So again, in terms of what their tasks are, unless you have identified that individual to be the responsible party, they are pretty much going to be doing the exact same thing as the HRL. So for instance, they can click this employee. They will have access to monitor their checklist. They will have the same access that you do. So are there real actionable tasks? No, unless you have notated to us that they are the individual that needs to make that that desktop request or something of that nature. Unless you communicated with us that they need to take action, their only view is exactly the same thing as HRLs, where they are just monitoring the completion of those tasks. So again, they can click that checklist. They can see what that employee has been assigned. So again, I can see this employee has been assigned these respective tasks, and I can see to what extent they have actually completed it. So again, it's the exact same view. There are no differences between the department admin, the HRL, or the supervisor. It's only about the scope of what they can view. So I hope I answered that question. If not, whomever asked that question, please reach out to me directly, and we'll spend some time just making sure that I've explained it in the way that you all understand. And not just you, anybody that is still a little unsure about the difference between those roles. So in sum, the only difference between the department admin and the HRL is the limited scope of users. So again, I can only see those individuals that I have been tagged and attached to. If you, as an HRL, believe that there is a department admin that should have all access to all employees within that department, please communicate that to either myself, Amy, Jenna, or Leanne, and we will make sure that that person has the respective permissions that they need to view all actions. All right, next question.
If we had already planned to complete an I-9 Section 2 for a June 1st new hire before their hire date, should we go ahead with that or let the employee work through this module?
Oh, I love that question, and you threw me a good one. All right, so I will actually defer that question. I don't think Leanne is on that call. I am thinking that you will receive a communication from HR related to all of those type of scenarios. So I don't want to say to go ahead and do it. I also don't want to tell you not to do it because I am unclear at the moment, at the present moment, as to what that communication will say. Let's just go with the feeling that anything beyond June 1st will be now the responsibility of HR. I am going to make note of that question just to make sure that Leanne is aware that that scenario may be a possibility and that we need to clarify that and define what actions you need to take. So thank you for asking that question. I have made note of it. We will follow up with you directly related to your specific situation. And like I said, you will be receiving communication from HR related to anything beyond that June 1st date for sure.
Our next question is inquiring about key requests.
Yeah, I like that question. All right, perfect question. All right, in terms of keys, you will take the exact same action that you always have. I think the way that we worded it in the system about that access request, basically what that task is just telling the supervisor is that they need to take all their normal actions. So we did not encompass that access request form into this platform because the access request form is used for individuals that live outside of HR. Well, it is HR, but I need to word that a little differently. That access request form is also used for affiliates that are not associated with HR, so therefore we could not pull that into this module. So all requests for keys, IDs, things of that nature, all of that is still going to be housed through that traditional access request form. So just take all actions that you have in the past. I hope that answered that question. All right. Any other questions?
We have one more as of right now. Will new employees also be notified specifically of expiring international documents through this module? For example, after a year or two passes?
Great question. I think we can set up the system to do so at this time because that document is not, it doesn't live here. It is not set up at this present moment to do that. There is some functionality that we can, and maybe not even functionality is not the, probably is not the best word. We can manipulate and create some workarounds in the system where we can do that so that way the system can monitor that documentation. But when we're talking about re-verifications of I-9s and things of that nature, or any documents that they must submit, at this time, it still lives and breathes outside of this employee records module. So at this time, they are still going to only get notifications from outside of this platform, whether it be via banner or something of that nature. So they will still continue to receive those type of notifications. All right, any other questions?
All right, one more question. Will employees hired under PA 5.8, but after June 1, follow all current or old procedures? Will any of these changes apply to them?
Oh, that's a great question. Is Jenna still hanging in there with me?
Jenna unfortunately had to get on another call.
Got it. No worries, because I do feel comfortable answering this question, but I know this is her purview. All right. So it is my understanding that employees that were hired in the PA 5.8, this does not apply to those individuals. The PA 5.8 system does not pull in these employees, so they will still be processed through Jumpstart. So this does not pull them in. So basically, none of these changes will apply. They will still continue with their normal processes. You will still take all current actions that you're taking for those employees. You will continue that same protocol. I do think that employment is making a great effort to reduce the number of employees that still live in that PA 5.8 system, so that way we can pull everyone into the system. So going forward, you will see a reduction in alternative processes for onboarding new hire employees. So great question. Any other thoughts, you guys? Thank you. You guys are probably the best group of individuals we had asking questions. Don't tell anyone I said that, but you guys have been much more engaged with the Q&A than anyone else.
I don't
All
see
right,
any new questions.
All right, I'll give you guys just a couple more minutes, and then other than that, like I said, I absolutely thank you guys for your time. Thank you, Stephanie, for moderating. For those that aren't aware, Ms. Stephanie Oliver Lee is joining me today. She is one of our onboarding specialists. For all of the HRLs that are on the call, I believe Leanne has recently sent you guys our divisions list, both for the onboarding center as well as TES. It is our hope that you guys are developing a relationship with our onboarding team as well as TES, because any questions or concerns related to this, you know, we will be able to support you. They will be your direct contact. Please never feel, you know, ashamed to give me a call. Ashamed wasn't a word. I just really never hesitate. That was more so the word I wanted to use. Please, you know, reach out to me at any time if you think that we can really tailor this system to benefit you and your department. I'm happy to do so in any way that I can. So thank you guys for your participation. I do see that last question. Will you add the chat with the answer? I will figure out if I can do that, and if I can't, I will absolutely make the chat and questions accessible to you guys as well. So thank you guys for your time. I'm going to go ahead and conclude today's session. Again, if there are any other follow-up questions, again, as you guys browse the module or that user guide, please don't hesitate to give me a call or send me an email. I hope you guys are staying safe out there. Please take care, and hopefully we look forward to seeing you guys in the near future.
All right. Thank you, Christine.
Oh, thank you, Stephanie, for everything.